Greetings and welcome to Voices. Voices, short for Voices of a People's History of the United States, is a new video series largely based on the book titled A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn and sponsored by the Sylvania Multicultural Center. We, the staff and students of the Sylvania Multicultural Center, are using this series as a platform to uplift the voices of those Americans, past and present, who have dissented and or rebelled against the social injustices prevalent in their day in an effort to challenge this nation to live up to the ideals and values upon which it was founded. I am your narrator, Dr. Clifford C. Meeks, Assistant Coordinator of the Sylvania Multicultural Center. In honor of Black History Month, we are uplifting the voices of 4 iconic figures critical in the struggle for Black liberation and civil rights. Our first video features noted civil and human rights activists, educator, and author Angela Davis. Born on January 26, 1944 in Birmingham, Alabama, Davis is well known for her work and influence on social justice, women's rights, and criminal justice reform. She joined the Black Panther Party as well as an all-Black branch of the Communist Party. Davis also taught at the University of California, Los Angeles, but was later fired due to her ties to the Communist Party. In the early 1970s, she became one of the FBI's most wanted due to allegations of conspiring a botched escape attempt of fellow members of the Black Panther Party. She was later acquitted of all charges. After her acquittal, she went on an international speaking tour that included Cuba, the Soviet Union, and East Germany. Upon returning to the United States, Davis resumed her teaching career and activism. She has taught at Claremont College, San Francisco State University, and the University of California, Santa Cruz, where she is the Distinguished Professor Emerita of its History of Consciousness Department. Angela Davis remains a staunch activist, illuminating the range of social problems associated with incarceration and the generalized criminalization of those communities most marginalized by poverty and racial discrimination. We are honored to have Rachel Dixon, coordinator of the Cascade Campus Multicultural Center, perform Angela Davis's address given at the historic Women's March on Washington, D.C. in 2017. We hope you enjoy our presentation.
At a challenging moment in our history, let us remind ourselves that we, the hundreds of thousands, the millions of women, trans people, men and youth who are here at the Women's March, we represent the powerful forces of change that are determined to prevent the dying cultures of racism, heteropatriarchy from rising again. We recognize that we are collective agents of history, and that history cannot be deleted like web pages. We know that we gather this afternoon on Indigenous land, and we follow the lead of the First Peoples who, despite massive genocidal violence, have never relinquished the struggle for land, water, culture, their people. We especially salute today the Standing Rock Sioux. The freedom struggles of Black people that have shaped the very nature of this country's history cannot be deleted with the sweep of a hand. We cannot be made to forget, that Black lives do matter. This is a country anchored in slavery and colonialism, which means for better or for worse, the very history of the United States is a history of immigration and enslavement. Spreading xenophobia, hurling accusations of murder and rape, and building walls will not erase history. No human being is illegal. The struggle to save the planet, to stop climate change, to guarantee the accessibility of water from the lands of the Standing Rock Sioux to Flint, Michigan, to the West Bank and Gaza, the struggle to save our flora and fauna, to save the air, this is ground zero of the struggle for social justice. This is a women's march, and this women's march represents the promise of feminism as against the pernicious powers of state violence, and inclusive and intersectional feminism that calls upon all of us to join the resistance to racism, to Islamophobia, to anti-Semitism, to misogyny, to capitalist exploitation. Yes, we salute the fight for 15. We dedicate ourselves to collective resistance, resistance to the billionaire, mortgage profiteers, and gentrifiers, resistance to the healthcare privateers, resistance to the attacks on Muslims and immigrants, resistance to attacks on disabled people, resistance to state violence perpetrated by the police and through the prison industrial complex, resistance to institutional and intimate gender violence, especially against trans women of color. Women's rights are human rights all over the planet, and that is why we say freedom and justice for Palestine. We celebrate the impending release of Chelsea Manning and Oscar Lopez Rivera, but we also say free Leonard Peltier, free Mumia Abu Jamal, free Assata Shakur. Over the next months and years, we will be called upon to intensify our demands for social justice, to become more militant in our defense of vulnerable populations. Those who still defend the supremacy of white male heteropatriarchy had better watch out. The next 1,459 days of the Trump administration will be 1,459 days of resistance. Resistance on the ground, resistance in the classrooms, resistance on the job, resistance in our art and in our music. This is just the beginning. And in the words of the inimitable Ella Baker, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Thank you.